So this is the level 2 recording for March 4th. And I'm dovetailing this teaching with the level 1 teaching. This is going to be all about divergent galactic personalities of various space races, but that relates to Christ consciousness. And first, I wanted to do a little bit with this lovely Merkaba video. These videos, or information always comes to me at the right time. And, so here, let me just rewind a little bit. Let me get it going also so that picture's worth 1,000 words and animation is worth even 10,000 more. And I'll send out a link or post this link on the events page. So when I teach about the Merkaba and I say, hey, this is what I do with my paintbrush, but I'm not going to pretend to tell you guys what to do with your paintbrush. This video is a very good example of that, because we have not only an example of, the 2 counter-rotating tetrahedra, right? But at a certain point, so there's one like this, but there's also another one, fiddling with my little supports here. Hold on a second. So if you could imagine, these 2 are superimposed on each other so that when you look at the bottom, oops, you get our lovely Jewish star. As I get this going here, I hope that you can see that's that right here. This is that lovely Jewish star at the bottom. So you have 2 pyramids superimposed on each other. 2 pyramids. That's actually what that's a painting of. But this is a 3-dimensional animation and mine is a flattened out still painting. This animation gets really interesting when they make the pyramids like this start to go like this, all right? And that's a movement that I haven't applied to my Merkaba. It's like saying, here's a new dance step, or, here's a new chord. It's wonderful to learn a new dance step or a new chord. So, yeah, that's going on a little bit. You'll start to see, and then you'll start to see all of the wonderful patterns that start to happen when we begin to turn these pyramids in even different rotations. So, again, this is a video that I watched many, many times over and over, and you'll probably want to check it out and even do it on slow motion so you can really see what's going on. And just bathe yourself, or just be receptive and allow it to come in, because this is a tool. It's like a paintbrush. It is, here you go. It's your paintbrush that you can use to make artwork in the way that you wish to make artwork. This is a YouTube video, and I will post this link on the events page, and I'll also send it out to the class, so it will be available. And I know it's probably tiny on your screen, you can't really see it, but there we go. If you want to, I'm happy to send it out to you right now, but how about I wait until after class? Sounds good. So okay, this is interesting stuff that can be done with the Merkaba. All right. Getting to, oops. Here we go. Okay, hold on a second while I bring up a few crucial pictures. Because we're talking about the galaxy, talking about consciousness on a galactic level. Yeah, I gotta find something on a galactic level here to show a picture. There we go. So this, I know it's slightly blurry, but you can see it, is a picture of the galaxy, and it is on edge, like a dinner plate on edge. But we understand that this, I'm making a big white line there, that is where the great galactic central sun lives, or the consciousness that is at the center of our galaxy. So let me just recollect and redirect here. Okay, I'm doing the recording also. Good, we're all recording. You can see very clearly that this is a vortex and this is also a vortex. This is one chakra, and it is at the level of a galaxy. And this galaxy, of course, if we were looking at it from the top down, here's the center, and then the arms all circulate around like this. And each arm is comprised of a nearly unimaginable or uncountable number of stars. But this is a being. This is a consciousness. So each one of those many, many individual stars is like a neuron in this great brain. And so this is level 2. You have already all been exposed to lesson 18 of level 1. We have no punches to pull here. This is all about galactic history and why we are in the state that we're in. Why are we in the condition of having diminished consciousness, of having a diminished or degraded genetic code? Why are we having to raise our energy up again from the level of being diminished, from being down here? Why do we have to climb that ladder back up to the top? And the answer has to do with the events of our galaxy and the divergent characteristics of the various inhabitants of our galaxy. So, in exactly the same way that each one of us is an emanation from the sun. The sun is like our most, local cell phone broadcasting tower. This is like the great cell phone broadcasting tower. And each one of us, we have a question. Does our galaxy have its own Merkaba? Thank you for that question. And the answer is yes, it most certainly does. So that question, I love that question because it shows that you're thinking in exactly the appropriate way. This shape can be applied to anything, from the subatomic world to the human scale to the galactic scale. Once you understand, wait a minute, if we have a set of tori, we can make Merkabas, or we can make flying rainbow lasagnas out of it. It doesn't matter if those tori are at the level of genetic material inside of your nucleus, or if it's the torus that surrounds your body, or if it's the torus surrounding a planet, or if it's surrounding a galaxy. And let's get into also scale here, because, wow, this galaxy that we are inside of is comprised of so many billions of stars, but there are many, many galaxies that exist in the cosmos. So many galaxies that, even though I love numbers, I don't think that I could put a number value to it. So even as I am speaking about the galaxy as like the totality, it's not the total totality. Right now, I would say the galaxy or the galactic entity would be analogous to me. Like if each one of the stars is like a little tiny cell in my body, the galactic entity would be analogous to Aurora, the totality. Like I'm the walking, talking person that is having experiences, and you're all, these little cells, you're all the little tiny cells within me that you're experiencing my life within me. So on the level of a galactic being, all of the galaxy is the entity, and all of the stars are like tiny little neurons in that entity, and us as an inhabitant of a mere planet, maybe we would be like a tiny little neurotransmitter. Like we would not even be the size of a cell in the body. We would just be a tiny little subcellular, organelle in that body. So I'm just giving you a sense of scale here. Yes, how humbling, but how wonderful, because all of our life experiences are absolutely part of the totality of this larger being, and it's fractal reality. So when you are getting up in the morning and making your scrambled eggs and eating your breakfast, the galaxy is also eating breakfast, but it's just, its breakfast might look very different. In exactly the same way that each one of us as an individuality are comprised of different divergent personality characteristics, so too is the galactic entity comprised of personality characteristics. Our life journey is a refinement of consciousness. We are refining out certain characteristics that are not desirable and refining towards characteristics that are desirable. Here's a desirable characteristic: the capacity to listen to God and the desire to do what God says. That's like saying, through my third eye and my crown chakra, I can hear God. I can tune in. I can say, God's over here. Oh, my antenna says God's over here. And I actually tune in. I actually listen. These are positive characteristics because they allow my consciousness and my awareness to be refocused back to the source. We have come here into the physical realm. We have come away from the source. We've come away from higher dimensional, less dense realms into the realm of lower dimensional, more dense realms. In order to get back to the higher dimensions, we have to be able to hear from them. And when you can hear from someone, it's very different to say, I can hear you, than to say, I choose to tune in and actually listen to you. Because, I might be able to hear you, but I might choose to stick my fingers in my ears and say, la, 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 I'm not listening. And there are space races or species of consciousnesses that exist in our galaxy that are doing exactly that. They might have the capacity to listen to the galactic entity or to listen to higher dimensional, less dense intelligence, but they're not. They're like, la, 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 we don't want to listen to you, we want to do our own thing, all right? And this has everything to do with galactic history and divergent personality characteristics. So, in our own personalities, different characteristics are valuable in different situations. If I grew up in a very loving, accommodating world, then I could be a very loving and accommodating person. I could be open and authentic and vulnerable and share my feelings and be sensitive to other people's feelings, right? If I am raised in a war zone or, a totally urban ghetto that's dangerous, filled with unfriendly people, snipers everywhere, and, there's pretty much no one is safe and no one is a friend, I can't display and cultivate the personality characteristics of being open and vulnerable and emotionally sensitive. I have to cultivate different personality characteristics just in order to survive. And this is our understanding of the variety of characteristics that exist in the galaxy. The galaxy is comprised of so many different types of realms. Like, we'll use as an example the Pleiadian area where it's like a vacation. It's beautiful. It's like Tahiti. There's beautiful, gentle ocean water that's warm and the air is warm and there's plenty to eat and everybody loves one another. It's just like a big love fest. And then we'll contrast that with a different type of planet or a different star system where maybe it's very cold and there's no food or a minimal amount of food. And the creatures or people that live there are more analogous to some of the beings that live on our own planet that are called extremophiles. Like spiders that are able to survive living on the sulfur that is emitted from magma, and undersea vents, or bacteria that can stay alive even though they're frozen under the Antarctic. These are beings whom have developed amazing survival characteristics because they live in very extreme situations. Everybody's perfect. Everybody has developed their perfect response to their life experience because this galaxy, this whole experience is all about the galaxy coming to know itself, consciousness coming to know and understand itself. If I took one of the inhabitants of a very rocky, cold, frozen, horrible world, right? There's not a lot of food. Everybody there has to fight to survive. And if I took them and brought them to one of these other star cultures that is about more than mere survival, that actually contains artistry and sensitivity and has aesthetics, it would be like bringing, Attila the Hun, like a total barbarian, to some incredibly sophisticated, like court or dance party. And like Attila the Hun, he only knows how to chop off people's heads. He doesn't know the dance steps. He doesn't know how to say hello to a lady and ask her to dance. But in other realms, those are the most necessary survival skills, being able to be culturally sensitive and have the right manners. So there are different personality characteristics throughout the cosmos, and they're all valuable. This is what we have to understand. When we begin to let go of judgment, we understand that all of these characteristics have a value, like all colors have a value. Even really muddy, brownish, greenish, like pukey diarrhea color is like still a valuable color because you might need to paint a realistic picture of pukey diarrhea one day. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you want your entire house to be decorated in that color. And you definitely get to choose how much of it you utilize either in your artwork or whatever you're doing here. I just want to make sure my sound is down. So now I want to get on to the concept. Hold on a minute here. Oh, why is my thing not participating? Not cooperating? Cooperate, please. Well, technology isn't always helping. There we go. Hold on one moment. Oh my goodness. My computer's getting a little slow, but I'm not having a problem like I did last week because I cleaned out my hard drive and everything that needed to happen. So it's going to be fine. Just give me a minute. It's got the spinning beach ball of death. What's the problem here? Okay. I'm sorry, guys. Just trying to clear everything aside. Well, anyway, let's get down to Christ consciousness and the distortions that have happened over the past 2,000 years and why humanity is at the point of having to raise itself up from these lower levels. So in lesson 18, I talk all about, what happened in the culture of Atlantis and how human consciousness on Earth's surface culture became genetically degraded and the connection to higher consciousness was diminished. So clearly, it was not the intended design or outcome of the original designer for us to have such a degree of difficulty in connecting to the source. There we go. We were meant to always be in contact with source and be able to live our lives in an unfettered way. And so now we'll get into this. Star cultures from other places. There have been conflicts for a very long time. Forgive me if I don't give exact information, like if I don't say for the past 7 million years or whatever. Like, let me just tell you, galactic history is a big topic and I don't pretend that I know everything. So I'm doing a lot of generalizations here. But what matters is the idea that this is a brain of one entity, one person. But within that one person, there are conflicting personality characteristics. So the different planets, the different places where life evolved, if we have one, I'm just making a big red dot and one big green dot, and here's a big blue dot. So we can say we have these divergent cultures. And there are billions of cultures. Oh my goodness. Like, that's why it's very difficult to get a handle on this and to make generalizations, and because it's like saying what's going on Earth right now. Well, Earth is comprised of, 13 billion inhabitants, and lots of different things are happening on Earth right now. What you need to know is that in our galaxy, all of these different star cultures have their own culture and their own agenda and their own history, and their history made them who they are, and everybody's got an assertion of why they're allowed to be the way they are. All right. So for beings that grew up in very unforgiving realms, they're like, oh, it's kill or be killed, and we're here to take no prisoners. They're like, barbarians. They're like Genghis Khan, and that's appropriate for them in their world. But what happens when that personality characteristic begins to interact with and impose itself upon a different personality characteristic that is receptive and accepting and not passive, but has a different energy structure to it and is not violent and aggressive? This is the answer. The galactic entity is having experiences in order to come to know itself and understand itself better. And this galaxy has not been at peace for a very long time. There are different star cultures that have been fighting with each other and exploiting each other. And some of these star cultures have what we would describe as lower vibrational, service to self, or negative structure and intention or system of justification for their approach. And when we look at when we look at the chakras and we understand that the red chakra, beginning with red right here, the story of the red chakra is I am. Simply, I exist. I exist and I am allowed to exist. It is a noble presence, the I am presence. Every single thing that exists has that chakra. Even, horrible murderers have that chakra. And the distortion of that chakra is that I exist and it's okay for me to kill or destroy or take from others or do whatever I need to do in order to continue to exist. So when I talk about personality characteristics, we talk about what is desirable or non-desirable, or why do these personality characteristics exist? The answer is because it is desirable to have that fight for survival or drive to protect yourself, or even to be aggressive if necessary. This is all appropriate in certain contexts, but it has been distorted and has come down to being imposed on you and I. The reason why you and I don't have mental sovereignty, or why we are working towards mental sovereignty, is because there were wars in our galaxy a long, long time ago. And the beings who felt that it was appropriate to impose their will and their desires on other beings eventually came to our solar system and began to impose their will on beings in our solar system, and that is what led to the degradation of human consciousness and human culture. This has everything to do with why is my left hand fighting my right hand? Why? This is one entity, this is one galactic being. Why is it in conflict? What is wrong? What is going on? So that's really the answer here. And the answer is not every galaxy is in conflict. Some galaxies are at peace. Not every galaxy has a set of interior species or cultures that are clashing. And not every galaxy has an issue with free will and sovereignty and certain people's will being diminished or having something imposed upon you. So level 1, what did I just teach about? How when you connect with your crown chakra, this becomes your teacher, telling you what you should think about, turning your head, showing you what you should look at, essentially guiding your actions. And when you have a material overlord, a physical intermediary telling you what to do, that diminishes your connection to the divine. This is what happened in Atlantis. No longer were people allowed to listen through their own antenna to their own higher guidance, telling them, go here, think this, do this, look at this, say this. That's how we're all supposed to act. We are all supposed to be guided by our own innate divine connection at all times. And the idea of listening to an externalized God or requiring an externalized authority figure is a perversion that happened because humans were cut off from their own innate divine connection. The beings who cut off humans from their own innate divine connection are beings from other areas of our galaxy who came in like siblings or older kids on the playground, and they said, I'm going to squash you, I'm going to bully you, I'm going to intimidate you, I'm going to do what I want to do, and you're going to have to listen to me. And this is the conflict. So then now we have Jesus, Yeshua in Judea. He comes along, all right? And I even have to characterize this also because many times throughout human culture, and culture means to cultivate, like the way you cultivate a garden or the way that you culture yogurt. You are cultivating certain organisms to live. You are cultivating certain thoughts to exist. Many times throughout human culture, human consciousness has been cultivated by higher consciousness. Just like when you make yogurt, you make sterile milk, then you inoculate it with probiotics. You say, first I'm going to kill all the bacteria here, then I'm going to put only the good bacteria that I want to be here, and then I'm going to culture it. I'm going to make it grow into what I want it to be. This is what extra-dimensional and non-terrestrial beings have done with life in our galaxy. They said, I'm going to take some milk, I'm going to add the consciousness to it that I want to add to it, and I'm going to stir vigorously and create culture. When teachers, avatars like Jesus in Judea came to give information, that was like getting an injection of probiotics into the medium of Earth. It's like saying, you guys need this level of consciousness, and then that is cultivated. Jesus was not the first or only avatar. He was one container for this higher consciousness. This higher consciousness has come in order to inoculate and re-inoculate our culture many, many times throughout history. So Akhenaten is an example in Egypt. Daganawida is an example from the Iroquois nation. Krishna is an example from the Hindu or Ayurvedic tradition of the Far East. One of the interesting things, though, and now we'll get into this, is Christ and Antichrist. Because we have Krishna, but we don't have anti-Krishna. We have Daganawida, but we don't have anti-Daganawida. Why do we have Christ and Antichrist? This is the struggle of cultivating the brow chakra and the era or the age that we have just exited, the age of Pisces. So in the age of Pisces, it was the age of the external authority figure. Someone else has to tell you what to do. We need an intermediary like a priest or Jesus or the Pope or someone to connect you to God, because of course you have been cut off from God. I am here to tell you in this teaching today that the teaching of the Catholic Church, the representation of Christ energy as a man named Jesus, is actually a harvesting of your energy of imagination. Because where's my picture? Let me just get a picture here, because this is what I was just drawing about. Here we go. Your imagination. Here we go. This is your imagination, your Christ chakra. Christ consciousness, so first of all, I've established Christ is synonymous with consciousness or with awareness. Your Christ chakra resides at the same level as your pineal gland. And your pineal gland is the emanator of your imagination. It is the tool that you use to paint and create reality. Paintbrush of your mind, you're using it to paint your reality. To hijack or diminish or distort this apparatus means we take control of your imagination and get you to start imagining and creating the things we want you to create. The Christian religion hijacked humanity's imagination and got humanity to begin to imagine a man in the sky with long brown hair and a beard, and that he should look a certain way and act a certain way, and that this is, hold on a second, that those characteristics should be fed. All right, so basically the idea is there is a true Christ, there's a true galactic being, this entity back here, an enormous entity, and that entity has been usurped. And when people made a religion called Christianity, people began to pray to the lower aspect of consciousness that is like an emanation of Christ consciousness. And they called him Jesus. And Jesus has become a bloated, distorted astral figure that doesn't have to do with real Christ consciousness. So here's my problem with Jesus being created as an intermediary, as a person whom you have to ask permission of, whom you have to ask permission to get into heaven or to do whatever you wish to do. In a lot of ways, having to say, what would Jesus do, is the antithesis of what the actual teacher, Jesus or Christ or Yeshua, wanted of us. And that is that each one of us has our own innate divine connection, and God tells us all innately what to do. This would, of course, end organized religion. So organized religion is at an end, and the beings who get a lot of nourishment and sustenance from maintaining organized religion, of course, do not wish for it to end. So those beings do not wish for you to understand the value of your own pineal gland. I'm getting to it. Christ and Antichrist. So at the same, I have to draw this in a picture here. Let me clear things out and make a little bit of room. This is the galactic being, Christ, all right? Then let me say that there's two emanations coming off of there. This over here is, I want to make a symbol of it. There we go. We'll make like a big cross symbol. What people say Christianity and Jesus is all about. Even the cross and the whole idea. So here's what is distorted about this astral Jesus, this lower dimensional aspect of Christ. The idea that suffering is noble and suffering is necessary. All right? The idea that you have to suffer first in order to go to heaven. All of these are distortions. And I also brought up already the distortions of the patriarchy. The idea that a good wife has to listen to her husband, or a good Christian has to sublimate their own desires to Christ or to God. No, no, no. The people that I work with, the higher dimensional beings that I work with, do not want to foster a slave mentality. They want to foster sovereignty. They do not want me to have to go to them at every minute and say, space aliens, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to brush my teeth? Am I allowed to drink a coffee? Am I allowed to do this or that? Help me, teach me, guide me, tell me everything what to do. They don't want that. They want me, Aurora, to be self-directed. They want me to have my own working apparatus so that I am connected to the above. I only have a minute left on this recording, so let me then also show the problem is we've also got the opposite, which is, Antichrist. We'll draw this as like, two devil horns going up like this. So we've got the real consciousness, that is the galactic entity, and then we've got it split up into a false astral Jesus and the opposite of false astral Jesus, which is Antichrist. Hold on while I pause this thing in the background and save it. and this is March 4th. It's saving. Hold on a minute. I thought I had my picture. Get it in a minute. It's right here. Here we go. Good. Not too bad. Okay, so we have the main, galactic Christ being, and then emanating from there, two aspects of it. This one over here, we've got Christianity as it's taught by Christ, the concept as it is taught by Christianity, and over here, the concept of the Antichrist. This is duality. This is what I am here in order to resolve with the flying rainbow lasagna. This teaching, what I'm trying to do here, telling you about a galactic entity that has conflict within its own consciousness or within its own aspects of self. This has everything to do with what each one of us is experiencing on an individual level, fighting with the internal tendencies, either to be judgmental and negative and, the direction of consciousness that is not unconditionally loving, or to be unconditionally loving, all right? And this is a very subtle distinction that I am making. But at the level of Christ, real Christ, the overarching cosmic Christ, we don't have this duality. But when we go to this level of the Christian religion, we end up having duality. And this duality has kept human consciousness mired, like in the quagmire, or this is what the quarantine of consciousness is all about. So in my personal journey or my personal exploration of an experience and interaction with Christ consciousness, I used to equate Jesus with Christ. And I had to come to understand that even the word Jesus has been an appropriation of Christ consciousness. The person who walked in Judea was not named Jesus. That is a modern fiction. And when people pray to Jesus, they are praying to that fictional construct, not to Christ consciousness. This is why I have to do cleanup. Like in order to teach people about your third eye and about your crown chakra, and to even call it Christ consciousness, I have to do cleanup with Cosmic Windex, because there has been so much misinformation created about who is Christ or what is Christ. And this whole idea of the conflict between good on this side, Jesus is so good, he's great, and then the devil on the other side, he's so bad and he's so wrong. This sets up an endless struggle of duality. All right? And it also sets up a lot of judgment. This is all about the good people saying, we're good and you're bad. You're supposed to be like us. You're not supposed to be like them. This is the antithesis of unconditional love, which states that, I don't endorse your choices, but I allow you your choices because it is a free will universe, and that's very important. In this galactic setup here, first of all, the devils, the demons, are non-terrestrial and sometimes extra-dimensional entities. And the Christian religion is actually just the opposite side of the same coin. I'm hoping to characterize this. Christ is real. There is really a galactic entity that is so enormous that it is larger than most of us can actually imagine. And that consciousness is real, and it is a true loving and benevolent and expert consciousness. Like it's not, it's not lame. It can definitely get things done. But that consciousness has not been interacting with you or I directly. It has been interacting through emanations or intermediaries. And what we need to do now is get past those intermediaries and get back to a direct experience of Christ consciousnness. And that does not equate to praying to Jesus, because Jesus is this. It's a construct. Just like when I told you about Madame Blavatsky, remember, the inventor of theosophy, went to the Far East in the 1800s and learned about these different techniques for creating like a little homunculus, like a little golem, a little man that's an imagination creature. And she put energy into her imagination creature and cultivated it to the point where it kind of got a life of its own. This is what humans have done with the Christian religion. Humans have given, through worship, their energy to the false astral figure that is known as Jesus. And Jesus is a distortion of what the true teachings of Yeshua were, and the whole idea of a man sitting in judgment saying, no, you're not allowed to go to heaven, or no, you are a bad person because you're homosexual, or no, you are a bad person because you masturbated. Any of those things is a total distortion and not who and what Christ really was. So what we have here is humans' minds being locked into the struggle of good versus evil. The whole idea of Christ the Savior, Christ the Judge, this religion of judgment is antithetical to the heart. It's antithetical, and it's against what I was teaching also, that it is necessary to maintain a foundation of unconditional love to withstand what you perceive through here. Because once you start to see clearly through here, you might see that someone was a rapist or an abuser, or that they stole from, family members, and you can say, wow, the world is just full of shit, everyone's a piece of shit, I see shit everywhere. It takes a lot to be unconditionally loving, because it's necessary to understand where these behaviors came from. So now let's go into, where did these behaviors come from? Why are there demonic beings that occupy the interstices and feed off of humanity and want to keep human intelligence and perception diminished? And the answer is because we are participants in a galactic conflict. And this galactic conflict has been going on for ages and eons. And all of those backstories have been distilled down to each of our individual stories right here and right now. So what you're experiencing on an individual level, what you experience in terms of your family and your culture and life on this planet, is a fractal and microcosmic outgrowth of what is happening on the larger galactic scale. And what we are doing here now in terms of resolving duality is we're ending this interminable war. End it. Good versus evil. This is what I'm talking about. Light versus dark. This is why I am here as the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, to resolve duality. We have this galaxy has health problems, like a body that has a disease, because of duality. And you do not heal duality by saying, you're different than me, you're not me, get away from me. You heal duality through unity by saying we are all one. So the first step towards healing this duality and resolving this endless struggle is to understand unity consciousness. We are all one. So just speaking in terms of the galaxy, everyone who lives in this Milky Way is an aspect of consciousness of the great galactic being, including what we would call demonic or evil entities. Wow, that's a big thing to understand. The demonic or evil entities that cause the death of the planet Mars, that cause the destruction of the planet Malduk or Marduk, that invaded Earth and caused the fall of Atlantis and enslaved human culture, those beings are all aspects of the galactic culture, the galactic being. So why are those beings acting as they are? How can we heal them so that they don't do that anymore? And the answer is they're acting that way because they find that it is pro-survival, it's an effective survival technique, and they feel that the only way for them to get the resources they need is to steal or overpower from, to take it from others against their will. They think that the only way they can get what they want is by saying, like, you better give me this stuff, as opposed to asking, like, can I please have this stuff? Or can I have this stuff? If you give that to me, I will give this to you. It's very, very different. They might not have learned that it is a more effective approach to ask for what you want and offer something in return. We need to heal the entire galaxy. So in order to do that, this is not a Band-Aid. Like I said, this is deep healing. This is foundation stuff. And that's why we're here. We are not here on Earth right now just to go around in the same cycle, walking in the same footsteps, but just a different pair of shoes, and mirror the same negative experiences that we had on other planets in other star systems thousands of years ago in the same galaxy. Yes, we have all had an amazing journey, and we've all been in this galaxy for thousands or tens of thousands of years, and we've been having these experiences, and guess what? We've all been in wars and conflicts on other planets, in other realms. We've all had this conflict going on endlessly, and now it's all boiled down to interior conflict, sometimes within the same family, sometimes within the same person, where each one of us is a blend of genetic heritages. You might have some from the lower vibrational service to self entities. You might have some from some more fun-loving entities. We all have these different aspects of consciousness. They're expressed genetically. They're also expressed as personality characteristics, and we are making choices. So if you are choosing to embody the vibration of unconditional love, you are choosing to embrace certain personality characteristics and to diminish other personality characteristics. Your individual life is a refinery of consciousness, right? Want me to draw our traditional time cone? Draw the time cone, Aurora. Here. Time cone is shaped like this, and it is a refinery of consciousness with infinity at the top. And we are going from these outer portions, and we are being refined towards the inner timeline, and eventually we will just occupy that inner timeline. The cosmos and our galaxy is the same way. The cosmos and our galaxy is also a refinery of consciousness. It is a refinery for certain characteristics. Some of the characteristics are on the periphery. They don't get to go on to the next level. Some of the characteristics are in the center, and they do get to go on to the next level. So of all of the divergent star cultures that exist, some of those star cultures exhibit characteristics that are meant to go on to the next level, and some of them don't. Now, I know that this is not the lesson about Cancer. I actually have recorded an entire advanced level lesson about Cancer and another one about longevity, which will go all into that. But suffice it to say that the disease that humans on Earth right now know as cancer is actually the outgrowth of a bunch of people that live over here in the Crab Nebula. They are beings who did not die well. Yes, they are inhabitants of the Milky Way galaxy. So my direct perception of what happened in the Crab Nebula is that their sun, their star, went supernova, and not all of their personalities transitioned or ascended to the higher state. And a lot of them are stuck in the interstices, and they cannot eat physical food, and they also have not yet built their capacity to eat pure love. So they're stuck. So they need to eat the denser emotions. They have practiced they have learned to farm humans for lower, denser, and negative emotions. And the Crab Nebula, this is in the zodiac, Cancer. And this is where the disease of cancer comes from. I will get much more into that in the actual lesson, in a few weeks. But I want to bring it up now so that you understand The beings that live in the Crab Nebula justify their actions. They say, poor us. Our star went supernova. We don't have any food to eat. We don't have a place to go. We have to do this just to survive. Do you understand what I am saying? It is noble. It is a noble personality characteristic to say, hey, I'm just trying to survive. Yes, that is noble. We all deserve to exist. The question is, what actions or compromises in terms of integrity are you willing to make in order to continue to exist? Will you murder, cheat, lie, steal, do all of these things that are essentially not truthful in order to exist? So this Crab Nebula, their whole society has developed the coping mechanism of feeding off of humans by creating disease on the surface of Earth. And that's not part of the original plan. The original design was for all of the Crab Nebulans to have their own innate divine connection and be able to connect to higher consciousness and be nourished directly. No one was meant to be here starving and incapacitated, but through their own cultural practices, these Crab Nebulans cut themselves off from Source and found that they could only feed off of negativity and anger and hatred and lower vibrational emotions. And then when they got to be that way, and they created a whole society based on feeding off of the negativity. So now we are about to resolve this. We're not just putting a Band-Aid on the wound, we're really healing it. That means that humans will no longer be emitting negativity. Think about this. What does this mean? All of their little Crab Nebulan babies will die. Their whole society will die. I'm using an analogy here, but when I comb my cat, sometimes she has fleas, and I take the little fleas and I, drown them in water, and I watch them while they're drowning. And the fleas are like, why are we drowning? We're only trying to stay alive. We're only trying to live our lives as fleas. Sometimes you can even tell that they've got eggs and they're mothers. They're like, I only wanted to be a mother. Why am I drowning? And the answer is because you're a parasite. You're not supposed to feed off of my cat. This is an aberration. This is not the way that the universe was designed. So I am sympathetic to the fact that you're a flea or a parasite and that you only want to live and have your babies and feed your babies, but this is not part of the overall design, and it is appropriate for me to reduce you as a parasite and reduce your capacity to feed off of others. So when we meditate, we are getting rid of our mental and emotional and energetic parasites. On Earth, the ascension process means that by the end of the ascension process, there will be nothing left for parasites to feed off of. No negativity, no heavier, denser emotions like sadness and shame and hatred and guilt. That will not exist. These Crab Nebulans, the restaurant is closed. They are not going to have anything to eat. And it is facetious when they say, we won't have anything to eat. Don't harm us. Be compassionate. These Crab Nebulans, they've known for ages that this is going to happen. One day, the restaurant is going to be closed. It's like Earth human society understands that one day you're going to run out of petrochemicals. There's a limited amount of oil in the ground, and you're eventually going to have to change over your economy to a non-petrochemical based economy. The Crab Nebulans know the same exact thing. There's a limited amount of human negativity that they can farm. There's a limited amount that they're going to be able to get coming forward into the future, and they have not prepared for alternatives. They have not prepared to eat love or raise their vibration. And so we need to understand all of this. This is a lot of backstory to understand. This is like understanding family politics. Like you or I, we are analogous to like a little kid that was just born in the family. And we just want to go to the store and, buy a candy bar. We just want to like do little kid things. And we don't understand like, how come Uncle, Frank is so mean, and how come Aunt Sally won't give me 10 cents for my candy bar? And how come I'm not allowed to go out for my candy bar? Like, we don't understand the politics of what's going on in our galactic family? And the answer might be, like now, in our adult presence, we understand if we didn't get money for a candy bar, it's not because we were bad children. It might be because Uncle Frank or Aunt Sally, was out to lunch, or an alcoholic, or mean, or abusive, or whatever. It was their issue. It wasn't our lack of goodness inside. That's really different than the teachings of the Christian church. The Christian church, the Catholic church, dogma says, bad things happen to you because you're bad inside. You're sinful and you deserve it. And this is totally not true. So we need to understand where these erroneous teachings come from, why there is discomfort at higher levels of the galaxy, and then how do we heal it? Healing it means beyond a band-aid. It means we understand the origins of the discomfort and really fix it. So if the Crab Nebulans are feeding off of Earth humans right now, why are they doing it? Because they're hungry. Why are they hungry? Because their food source was taken away. Why was their food source taken away? And when we keep asking why questions, we then get to solutions. And all of this has to do with letting go of judgment. I am not judging the Crab Nebulans, even though I don't like what they do. A lot of my friends have had cancer. I have friends who died of cancer. It's not okay that they're trying to feed off of humans and kill people, but I understand why they do it. It's like fleas. I'm not okay with fleas trying to jump on my cat and eat her blood and make her, full of parasites. I'm not okay with it. I comb them off every day, but I understand why the fleas are motivated to do what they do. And also, it might help you all to know that the fleas, the parasites of our cosmos, are impersonal. They are simply impersonally attacking you and feeding off of you and feeding off of everyone. And they have created this duality trap to keep everyone endlessly struggling in duality so that they can have food because they want to eat. The restaurant is closing. That's what the ascension is. We are resolving duality. We are understanding the origins of the abusive behavior of our galactic family members, and we're healing it. This is necessary because when we come together, we are like dimensions that are melding together. We're going to be meeting and interacting directly with a lot of our galactic family members now. So we need to be resolving a lot of this. I'm wrapping up the recording from the back and going to open up hold on a second while I do this. Open up the floor to any. Here, I just have to label this properly, otherwise things don't get labeled. There we go. Good, saving my thing. And let me unmute you guys and open the floor to any questions. Everyone's unmuted except for Ed. Sorry, because that way I don't get feedback. All right. Any questions, comments, or anything like that? And if you need privacy, I can also end the screen record.
I just have a question going back to the Merkaba.
Absolutely.
At the beginning of the class, you were showing that spinning.
Yeah, I'm going to get that going up again. That'll be good to look at.
And you were saying your picture to the left is that.
Yes.
I'm trying to see how it's that.
Mm-hmm.
And are you saying there are two Merkabas, two tops and bottoms working together?
Yes, I'll show you exactly what I've got here. So what they have in this video is two. I dropped my little thing on the floor here. If you can imagine. They've got one like this, and then they've got superimposed on top of that, one like this. And then they've also got, one like this and one like this. So this animation shows 4 of these. We have, if you could, I might have to draw it as a picture. I know it's so hard, but oops.
I get it.
All right. So we have, at the one point, it would be like saying, I have 2 upward facing pyramids, and one of them is spinning around to the right, and one of them is spinning around to the left. And I have 2 downward facing pyramids too, and one of them is spinning around to the right, and one of them is spinning around to the left. So it's an interesting video because it even gave me ideas about new formations that we can spin our shapes in. And the timing also has to do with it. Like you can see when it starts to spin and some of the places where the corners coincide and it makes a little spark, this would be spinning a lot more quickly in our hyperspace experience. And it might even look like a line. This might look like a blurred line here and a line here. And at a certain point, you'll see this starts to spin over like this. So it's not just spinning, rotating, like a Lazy Susan, it's also spinning end over end like a tumble salt. And then it starts to make our beautiful octahedron shape when it starts to do that. I think you'll see it come up in the video. If not, I'll fast forward. It's at the very end, it makes an octahedron shape. Or I might have to rewind. But I will send you the link so that I watched this more than 5 times just on an endless loop, watching it over and over so that I could see. There you go. Now, hold on. You can start to see how this is tilted. See, this line right here is tilted. That triangle is starting to go end over end. Look at that. It's going end over end, and then, oop, I missed it. You start to get these really interesting octahedron shapes. Let's see if I can pause it just right when we get to another one. It's almost there. You can almost see the octahedron. That orientation of it is like this on its side. I don't know if you can see that little crystal on its side and see how that is oriented. And then back to the regular. So I know that it is like a lot to try to unravel with your eyes. Hold on a minute. I'm going to pause this and I'm going to go back to EduCreations because I have a flat picture now that I can use to show you what I'm talking about. This is good. Nope. I'll get there. Oh, thank you for bearing with me. I have a lot of files to go through, but this is the drawing of this painting back here. And what I have is 2 of these. So I have one that is like this, and then I have one that is like this, but they're flat. What I have drawn here is a flattened out version of what happens when you have 4 of these put together and rotating in complementary directions. But the animation shows it more beautifully and more accurately because the animation shows what it would actually look like when these things interpenetrate, when they I can't make them interpenetrate here, but this is a flattened out simplification, and the animation is more accurate because it actually uses perspective to show the shape and the form and the movement to it. So, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and animation is worth 1,000,000 words. And that's why I shared it. And I'm happy that things like that exist because they are also quite costly and difficult to produce. Like, it takes a lot of processing power to make these animations. So it's very good that people are coming up with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. So you know what? I'm going to actually end this. Going to stop